We are going live right in a second, hopefully.
Meeting is now streaming live. Might be a bit sunny.
Come on, Paige.
That's a little bit better.
We are live now. Okay, as Andrea is tidying up her bedroom.
I'm trying to.
Right, now I'm not sure. Is anybody there? I'm just scrolling down just to see if I can have a look and see if anybody's there. If you are, shout out, say hello. Can't see anyone, it's just going to be you and me talking about booze. Now,
that's all right.
I've got a few things that I want to say about alcohol. So the point of this was really because I drove past the one of the alcohol shops, I think the day that we were going into level 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing a guy who had about 10 boxes, and I kid you not, he actually had one of those trolley things because he had so much beer that he was putting in the back of his boot. Mm-hmm. And I've spoken to people who are queuing for half an hour just so they can go and pick up their alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's kind of worried me quite a lot because particularly with women, because I know what alcohol does to our body and how it affects our hormones and our general health. So that's why I really wanted to talk about it. And particularly when people are stressed, we know that we all reach for alcohol.
Yeah.
And I certainly have. I mean, I hardly drink anything now, but in the past, I would come home from work stressed, and first thing I had to do was get myself a glass of wine. It was almost like a crutch. It was a pat on the back. It was a cuddle. It was all of those things. Yeah. And before you know it, you're drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day and a half a bottle of wine or a bottle of wine at night just to get you through. Mm-hmm. So this is the time when people are bored, they're stressed, and then they reach for the alcohol. So I don't want to put a downer on alcohol because I like alcohol, but mm-hmm. it needs to still be a treat rather than a crutch, because that's when the problems come about. So when I talk about alcohol, I'm not talking about it from an alcoholic perspective. I'm just talking about being really mindful about how much you're using or drinking and the reasons why, because of the effects. So do you want to say anything about your experience with alcohol before
God.
With all the body stuff?
Oh, that could open up a whole, my experience personally, that could open up a whole can of worms. Yeah, alcohol is a really touchy subject for me personally. But it's kind of like I suppose it's for different reasons. Like alcohol for me, I grew up with alcoholics in my family. So probably my mum. My dad definitely was, and my mum chose men who were alcoholics and violent, and just grew up in a horrible, toxic, alcoholic household. When I was a teenager, I went to live with my dad, who was also an alcoholic, but he wasn't an aggressive alcoholic. He wasn't like, you could hardly ever tell if he was even drunk or not. I never knew if he was drunk or not, but he was totally fine and wasn't aggressive. I didn't have the same experience as what I had when I was living with my mum. And but then being a rebellious teenager and, all that kind of stuff, I then started drinking badly. And, and then I, like drinking to the point where I was, always drink to the point where I was paralytic, vomiting, and then I kind of, it wasn't until I was like 40 that on my 40th birthday, which you will remember that, Sarah.
I remember that very well.
Yeah. I stopped binge drinking, but then whenever I did drink, I couldn't, my body just can't seem to handle it. And like on my 40th party, for example, I didn't have very much to drink. I think I may have had like 3 drinks. I don't know. I think they were spirits and they probably were quite strong, but you saw me that night. I was paralytic, vomiting, missed my whole party.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I haven't drunk. Ever
Yeah.
since then, so that's been 7 years, and I haven't drunk. So and also after that, I got sick as well. So that was another reason to not drink as well. So so there's, for alcohol, for me, those experiences are probably, I remember my best friend saying to me, I think you're actually allergic to alcohol. She said, because you just can't handle it. I just bring it back up. So
so you have one glass of wine and you feel terrible.
I wouldn't be able to drink one glass of wine now. There's no way. I only need to just have like a few sips and I can feel it, like straight away. Like it goes to my head like straight away. I sometimes look at people's lovely red glass of wine and winter, and I'm like, oh, I would really, that looks so nice. But I don't know, it messes with my head, and it also makes me feel like, if I could probably have like a tiny bit, but I know my heart. And it's been an interesting journey, because you get people who, like, drinking is so common, and it's so and you get people just looking at you like you're a leper if you don't drink, like if you're out and you're not drinking. So now I drink kombucha or something like that in a champagne glass or a wine glass, so people think I'm drinking. So it's kind of got to that point, but I don't miss it at all. Just like I said, sometimes occasionally I think, oh, it would be really lovely to have a little bit of red wine in front of the fire in wintertime, but alcohol is, and I still have family members who have problems with drinking, with alcohol and stuff, and it is a huge trigger for me, alcohol. And even my poor husband, like, can't even have too much to drink, because it's not that he's a big drinker anyway, but he'll have like 1 or 2 beers maybe at night, if that. But then if he, God forbid, if he tried to open like a bottle of whiskey or something like that, I would be like, nah, I'm out of here, I'm gone, So it is a trigger for me, alcohol. And and I hate being around people who have got a problem with it. Like, so now I've learned a lot. I just remove myself from the situation. If I can see someone in my family or, close circle of friends or family or something who's starting to get drunk and starting to annoy me, and they can't stop, like they just keep going for bottle after bottle after bottle, I just remove myself from the situation. So it just does so much damage. Drinking like that just does so much damage. And like you said, like you noticed at that bottle store, like that was, Ian went to go get some beers from the bottle store that day before we locked down, and it was mental. Like there was queues, and I just did like a live yesterday, and it's like all the alcohol, or there's no Whittaker's chocolate in the supermarket. And and I was, that week prior, I was looking in people's trolleys, as I always do anyway, but I was noticing people's trolleys, and it was chips, chocolate, wine, beer, 2-minute noodles, and it's like it was crazy. I was like, where is all the good food was all still there. It was just like 2-minute noodles and chocolate, alcohol,
all that comfort food, because people are just going to sit on a sofa and eat shit because it makes them feel better, but it's not good in the long term. No, I'm lucky. I'm married to a teetotaler, so not good when you're married to a policeman who doesn't drink alcohol. But I think that's also because he's seen what alcohol does, is put him right off it. Plus, he doesn't like the taste of it. But he's been given shit over the years because he's a bloke that doesn't drink beer or wine or anything. He doesn't like it, and it's a culture that's a problem. And I know that socially it makes it hard to not drink, because you go to parties or you socialise with people, it's an expectation. So it is a problem. So I'm going to do the body stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about what alcohol does. So I want to make it really clear. In no way am I saying nobody should drink alcohol, because that would make me a hypocrite. But I want people to understand that our body thinks alcohol is a poison. It treats it like it's a
Yeah.
poison. So we're not really meant to drink it. So and it is a vicious cycle. So we know that over time, if you drink alcohol, it puts pressure on your adrenals, which is not going to be good for women who are menopausal. It increases cancer risk. I'll talk about that. It definitely affects weight, particularly belly fat. It affects the quality of sleep, and it's a depressant. It makes us, we think it's a stimulant, but actually it depresses our nerves, and in the long term, it'll affect mental health too. So this is a terrible, terrible time to be sat on a sofa drinking lots of alcohol and chocolate and chippies. And it's a vicious cycle, because when we drink, we don't get the deep restorative sleep that we need, because it affects out the kind of the deep sleep. We wake up feeling tired. We're stressed and wired at the end of the day, particularly if we're then eating muffins and coffee and crap. And then we drink alcohol in order to calm us down and then knock us out, but then we don't sleep properly again. And so it ends up becoming this vicious cycle. We just feel like crap all the time. And the thing about women is that we are actually affected by alcohol far more than men. So one, we've got less body water content. I think it's something like 49% water in comparison to men. I think it's 58% water, which means that we've got less water to dilute the alcohol. So the alcohol's stronger. We also absorb it much, much more quickly. And in our stomach, there's an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase. And that enzyme in our stomach breaks down alcohol. So it's the start. The whole body is kind of in a frenzy to kind of get rid of it. And so this enzyme in our stomach breaks it down, so it can't starts that kind of step of to try and kind of get it out of the body. And women have far less of that enzyme than men do. So that means it takes longer for us to break it down in the stomach. And then we also absorb far more of it, plus it's then not diluted. So it affects us much, much more. So if we're drinking as much as a bloke, it's actually going to have far greater effects on us health-wise than with a man. And alcohol's also dealt with before nutrients. So the reason it's absorbed before our nutrients is, again, because our body's trying to get rid of it. Body considers it's a toxin, so it prioritizes everything in order to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's broken down in the liver. And I know on our program I talk more about how the liver works, but it's almost like the liver's got two rooms. And one room it's broken down, and then it goes into another room and it's broken down. And so alcohol will be rushed through that process of detoxification before estrogen, before cholesterol, before lots of other things, again, because the body wants to try and get rid of it. Now, that enzyme that I said is in the stomach, the alcohol dehydrogenase, that's also found in the liver. And what happens is, if you drink a lot of alcohol over time, the liver can only really break it down. It's a bit like a threshold. If it gets to a threshold, it can only break down something like 10 grams of alcohol or ethanol, which is your kind of the pure alcohol. And it takes an hour for it to break down 10 grams. And that's the maximum amount. So women would be processing a lot less. And if we're drinking, say, 2 or 3 glasses of wine per hour, the liver can't cope with that. So it will store it. And so what happens is, it won't store it. What it does is, the liver is also working on our fat. It kind of sends fat away, it brings fat back, it breaks fat down, and it gets rid of fat for us. So what will happen is the fat just gets put in cupboards and stored up, whilst the liver's trying to work through the backlog of alcohol. And then eventually the liver just becomes full of fat, and that's when you end up with things like fatty liver disease, because the cells are just packed full of fat, stored away, because the liver's kind of, I'll deal with you later, I've got to deal with the alcohol. And so in the end, we end up with fatty organs, and that's what then can kill us eventually. So we shouldn't be drinking more than 1 alcoholic drink per hour at least. So when I say an alcoholic drink, you fill up a wine glass. Sometimes we're drinking more than one standard. I meant to bring a wine glass in to show you, but a standard drink of wine is like tiny. It's like 200 mils, I think. Yeah. And we're drinking 400-600 mils sometimes, which is actually 3 standard drinks in one drink. Well, our liver can't cope with that. And we might be having a couple of those glasses. So we have to remember that actually we're only meant to drink something like 200 mils. I have to check that. Yeah. The other thing is, alcohol depletes a lot of nutrients from our body. So it doesn't matter how well you eat. If you're drinking lots of alcohol too, even if you're having 1 or 2 glasses, it will be depleting those nutrients. So vitamin C, vitamin E, will kind of be knocked off. Vitamin A, so people that drink a lot of alcohol are generally low in vitamin A, and that's really important for our cells. It's important for our mucous membrane, so it'll affect your skin, your eyes, your gut, immunity. All of those things will be affected because vitamin A just isn't being absorbed anymore. B vitamins, which we need for our hormones, for energy, for digestion of our nutrients, all of those, the intestines won't absorb those B vitamins. So B9, B12, B6, all of that. Vitamin D, which is really important for immunity and also our bone health, which is really important when you're menopausal. It actually stops it being activated in the liver. So again, doesn't matter how much sun you get, it will not be activated in the liver, and you're going to end up being deficient in vitamin D. Zinc, which is extremely important for immunity, particularly at this time in our skin health. It works with vitamin A, again, won't absorb that. Proteins, amino acids, they don't get absorbed too, and then that has huge implications, particularly at this time for our immunity. Certain nutrients that help with our heart health, selenium, which we're already deficient in New Zealand, and deficiencies linked to anxiety, mental health, cancers. Magnesium, which again is important for our bone health, heart health, our nervous system. It's a relaxation mineral. We won't absorb that. And those essential fatty acids that I've talked about. So it's a huge amount of nutrients will be affected by us drinking lots of alcohol. The other thing to know is a lot of nutrients that I've talked about we need in order for our liver to detoxify, in order for our liver to detoxify alcohol. So the B vitamins that we need, not only are we not absorbing because we're drinking alcohol, you need B vitamins, particularly B3, in order to actually break that alcohol down. So if you're already not eating properly, and then you're drinking alcohol, so therefore you're not absorbing what you've got, and you're using up those vitamins in order to detoxify, you're going to become even more deficient at the end of it too. So the B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin A, zinc, selenium, protein, all of those things are needed in order for our liver to actually get rid of the alcohol. So it's a double-edged sword. So the other thing that's really important for women is that estrogen is also broken down in the liver. So alcohol, as I said, because it's a priority, because the body thinks it's a poison, estrogen will get put over the side in order for the liver to focus on alcohol. So that means that alcohol, because sometimes what will happen is that the estrogen gets recycled back into the bloodstream, which then creates an imbalance with progesterone, which is when you see all the PMS symptoms and all the horrible menopause symptoms, because our body's kind of got like an excess of estrogen in relation to progesterone. Also what can happen is that estrogen could get broken down into metabolites that aren't so good for our health that have been linked to various cancers as well. So there's been some studies that show that even just one glass of wine or one shot of some spirit can actually lower estrogen levels but increase the risk of breast cancer. Some women, it might actually improve them if they've got heart problems, but it's just one glass. And there's been studies to show that women that drink lots of beer are actually at higher risk of colon cancer as well. So we just have to be really careful. Maybe the odd glass is okay, but just not 3 or 4 in one night, and not, buckets of beer.
Yeah.
Alcohol will increase anxiety and depression. It can exacerbate breast pain. So if you found that you either cyclically get breast pain, or as part of perimenopause you get breast pain, that can be because of alcohol, because alcohol increases prolactin, which is another hormone that we usually produce when we are making breast milk, but it's there anyway, and that increases prolactin, which means that it then kind of can make our breasts really tender. So if you do have cyclic breast pain, don't drink alcohol around that time. Do a symptom diary and then just don't drink alcohol around that time. Or if you've got it all the time, it might be that you need to actually reduce or avoid alcohol. It's also been shown to bring on early menopause too. So again, something to, if you don't want early menopause and you don't want to suffer horrendous symptoms, again, look to alcohol. Yeah. Alcohol can also make hot flushes worse. I've seen that with quite a few clients I've had where they've got anxiety, they've got hot flushes, they can't sleep properly, and they're drinking quite a bit of alcohol, and either they give up the alcohol and those symptoms go away, or for some women they actually choose to have the alcohol rather and put up with the hot flushes because they don't want to give up the alcohol. But definitely look to how much alcohol you're drinking if you do have hot flushes, anxiety, sleep problems. The other thing that I've seen with women is also that it increases something called uric acid, and uric acid can cause joint inflammation and gout. So if anyone's all of a sudden getting really painful joints, which can happen when you hit your 40s or you get gout, it's possibly to do with alcohol. It suppresses immunity, like I said, because it stops the body making protein. So we eat protein, that protein's broken down and then it's kind of rebuilt, a bit like Lego. And alcohol stops us building that Lego house. And so that means that we're then not making the white blood cells that we need in order to, for our immunity. It's also, we know that alcohol is an anesthetic. It kind of helps to numb pain, and that's what it's doing in our body. It actually numbs the nerves in our brain as well, which makes our nerves go to sleep, which is one of the reasons why we sometimes drink alcohol, because we are trying to numb the pain. The other things that I want to say is that when alcohol is broken down in the liver, one of the things it's turned into is called acetaldehyde, and that is hugely toxic, and it destroys vitamin B6. And vitamin B6, if you don't have enough of that, it will cause a type of anemia, which will make you really tired because it affects how your blood is built. And also it's needed for progesterone production. So if you don't have enough B6, or if you're drinking lots of alcohol, you're going to end up with symptoms of low progesterone. So you're going to get fluid retention, you're going to get anxiety and feel miserable. You're going to get all of those other symptoms that we talk about. So it's something else to bear in mind. Causes the gut to secrete more gastric acid, so then you become at risk of ulcers. And also it increases histamine, and there's a relationship between histamine and estrogen. When you high histamine, you might have high estrogen. So things like inflammation and also migraines can be because you've got excess histamine in your body because of the alcohol that you're drinking. So if you get migraines, if you get particularly hormonal migraines, I would be looking at how much alcohol, amongst other things as well, but look how much alcohol you're drinking, and that might be, again, something you need to remove so that you don't get those migraines. And the other thing that I find really interesting is that alcohol is also antimicrobial. So in the old days, we used to use alcohol to kind of clean wounds. If it's antimicrobial, and this isn't based on research, this is just me thinking, if it's antimicrobial, I just wonder how much damage alcohol does to your gut bacteria. It's going to probably damage and kill off your gut bacteria that you don't really want. So it's another reason to be really careful with how much alcohol you drink, particularly if you've got gut problems. So the things that like Andrea said about drinking kombucha is a really good idea. It's probably the top thing, and there are different kombuchas out there that have different tastes. The one I really like is one. I drank it all because I've had two. Instead of me buying bottles of wine, I bought 2 or 3 bottles of kombucha. I've gone through them all already. But there's an organic one that I really like that's quite hoppy. It tastes like beer. Okay. And that's why I like it, because it's kind of got this alcoholic type taste to it. And I do the same. I put it in a wine glass or a beer glass, so for me, it's almost like drinking alcohol. And I find if I do that, I don't miss alcohol at all. Yeah. So it's a really good idea. And putting it in a wine glass or champagne glass, again, drinking alcohol it becomes a habit. And if you put it in the same glass, sometimes you don't even notice. It's just about the routine, I suppose, of sitting down and sitting down and drinking it, and it becomes part of the routine.
It's a relaxation thing.
It's relaxing. So I think you're drinking wine, instead of drinking wine when you cook in the evening, fill a wine glass with sparkling water, or do something else. If I know I had clients who you would drink alcohol as a treat. So it's about finding what other treat could you do? Could you sit and read a book? Could you do something else? That's a kind of a reward for having a good day. Just sit down for half an hour and listen to a podcast, or do something else. So rather than having a gap, you've got to fill it with something else. So that, and if you go past the alcohol shop, go a different route. So that it changes your habit. So you've got to kind of create a new habit. But even with sparkling water, which I know is not particularly exciting, but you can add things like slices of citrus fruit, or some watermelon, or some rosemary, or cucumber slices, and mint leaves, which is awesome, blueberries, or a vanilla pod, or lime and basil, or pineapple slices, and so you mix it up with some fruit and some herbs and make it look pretty, or ice cubes. And sometimes you might put I put a sage leaf in an ice cube or a rosemary sprig in, and then you put it with water and then you freeze it and then you put that in. So it's not just water, it's something special.
Yeah.
And or you can make juices like mango juice and add some sparkling water to that and then add some mint leaves to it or something. So I think it's about trying to create different habits, filling up that gap so that you don't just not have anything, because that makes it really hard. And then maybe just drink alcohol at the weekend. So if I do have wine, I usually have it on I generally only drink alcohol if I'm going out and Ian's driving, because Ian drives because he doesn't drink. Then I might have a glass of wine if I feel like it, but it depends. If I'm tired, if I've got a headache, then I won't, because I'm like you. I found that the older I've got, the more sensitive I am. I can't drink white wine anymore. That just makes me feel really ill.
Yeah.
I can get away with one glass of red wine and that's it. If I drink any more than that, I feel terrible. And I suspect I'll get to the point where even one glass of red. And now I think my wine glass is, I have like a big shot glass, and I have a very small glass of red wine that's less than, I think it's probably about 100, 150 ml, and that's all I'll do. And I'll have that as a treat at the weekend, and that's fine. And I can't do any more than that. And I know if I drink alcohol, doesn't matter whether it's, how small it is, I will sleep like shit. I will not sleep properly, and I'll wake up with a headache. And that's sometimes I just have to decide, well, how much do I really want this wine? Is it worth it? And it's better at the weekend, because then if I feel really rough on a Sunday, it doesn't matter because I'm not working. But I think the older I'm, I don't know, how old am I? 47, 48. I've definitely noticed the last 7 or 8 years drinking alcohol, it makes me feel worse and worse and worse. And it gets to the point where you think, I don't want to do it anymore. And my dad's 80 and he doesn't drink alcohol at all now, and he said he just got to the point where he thought, why am I doing this? It makes me feel terrible. I'm not doing it anymore. So I think we've got to get out of the habit of just it's part of our lives, it's part of a culture. But if it makes us feel like crap, then why are we doing it? Have it as a treat, make it an event, enjoy it, savor it, rather than it being what we do when we come home and we've had a shit day.
So for those who do have a drink, they want to drink like every day, what would you I mean, I know we've talked about like maybe just saving it till the weekend, but then in the weekend you don't want to drink 2 bottles in that night, so how much would you kind of recommend, like say for what would be your recommend weekly dose of alcohol? Because someone who drank it like every night after work,
I think it's individual as to what you feel you can do. I think, ideally 1 glass of wine a day would probably be the healthy maximum, because at least your liver can break that down. But just make sure that you've got a really good diet that will help with the detoxification of it. But if you're someone that's had that habit of drinking half a bottle of wine every day, then I would say, okay, why don't you just have 1 less glass of wine to start with? So do it so it depends on whether you're someone that just says, right, that's it, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to just have it on Friday. If you're that kind of person, then do that. But if you find it really hard, there's small steps. So if you have 4 glasses of wine every day, try and have 3. And then see how you get on and do that, and until that becomes a habit, and then see if you can do 2. And I would do it slowly, step by step, because what you don't want to do is feel like the minute you feel like you're missing out, that makes it hard. So if you're going to go from 4 to 3, then maybe your 4th glass could be some sparkling water, or could be kombucha, or could be something, so you still got the habit but you filled it with something else. So I would say it's much harder to just say, that's it, I'm not drinking it, without replacing it with something else, or changing up your habit. So if you've got a habit where the first thing you do when you come in is to go for your wine, what I would do is go for a walk around the block, or I'll walk around my garden. I'll try and change up the habit, so that if I did that every time I came home rather than going for the wine, by the time I'd gone for a walk around the block or my garden, I then wouldn't crave the wine, because I'd broken the habit. So I think, look to replace, start to become really mindful about what your habits are, and then think what's realistic about you changing up your habits. Whether it's, okay, I'm not going to start drinking at 4, I'll start drinking at 6, but I'm going to finish at 8. Or whether it's, I'm going to just drink 1 less glass of wine, Or it might be, right, Fridays and Saturdays I will drink, or Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays I'll drink. Or it might be Mondays I won't drink and the rest of the week I will carry on as I am. So find a way of reducing it that's realistic for you, that you think, yep, I can do that without resenting it and then kind of going back to default. Yeah.
And it's probably not really like the fatty, you touched base before on the fatty liver. I've got a friend who's got fatty liver, but she's not a big drinker. It can be caused, I take it, not just by alcohol.
So there's two different types. There's your fatty liver, which is generally your alcoholics, and then there's non-alcoholic fatty liver. And non-alcoholic fatty liver is usually diet. It's usually really high carb type diets, crappy food type diets that actually cause that, and we're seeing that far more. It's like it kind of runs along the similar lines as diabetes, and we're now seeing young kids, teenagers who are now starting to get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it's usually from eating crap food.
Okay, all right, okay, cool.
But the same kind of outcome.
Yeah. Okay. Just fun, Interesting. It's such a touchy subject.
It is a touchy subject.
Yeah,
people get really attached. It's it's worth kind of journaling about, why am I so attached to alcohol?
Yeah.
Because it ends up becoming more than just a beverage. It's like food and alcohol. We have such intimate relationships with food and alcohol. We create stories around them, and we have these warped relationships with something that should be, I suppose, fuel. I mean, I wouldn't say we're not there to enjoy it, but we've created these stories around food and alcohol that actually aren't. It's not good for us. And I wouldn't say we shouldn't drink alcohol at all necessarily. I mean, you look at people that, I'm fascinated with the groups of people around the world who live in the blue zones, who live to be over 100, and most of them, apart from the Californians, the Loma Linda Californians, they all drink alcohol, but the alcohol is done socially. It's usually homemade. It's usually small amounts. So it's not the alcohol that's the problem necessarily. We've been drinking alcohol for millennia, but it's really how we do it that needs to change.
Totally. And then people will it's like anything. It's like coffee, it's like food, it's like alcohol, it's like anything. People will take that of those people who do it, and they'll be like, well, they do it and they live to 100, so that's fine. But
it's about how they do it. And also it's probably, some of it's better quality because it's homemade. It's not going to have all of the pesticides and all the other crap that they put in alcohol too. But I know you can get drops for that. I tried. You can get the kind of the drops that you put in wine that's supposed to neutralize the preservatives. So I've been trying that. I don't know if it makes any difference because I still feel crap when I have it, but
okay,
I try it.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to eventually just not have it like me.
Maybe. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But I do drink it mindfully.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't
have any comments, no questions. Nobody wants to know, do they?
I wonder why.
We had people say that they wanted us to do a talk on alcohol, and they're the people that aren't here.
No,
They'll watch it this evening with their glass of wine.
We'll also have to do a talk on coffee and chocolate.
Yes, I don't really want to do that, but I will. I will definitely talk about coffee. It might be biased.
Whittaker's chocolate, no.
Hey? Well, research shows that chocolate is good for us. And coffee is good depending on your genes.
Yeah, I've had people run with that too. They'll read like just like the alcohol, they'll read one little article that says that coffee is good for Alzheimer's or whatever, and then they'll just take that and they'll run with it. But they have like 10 cups of coffee a day, and it's like, 10.
Well, it's all right. We'll do a talk on chocolate, and we'll do a talk on coffee, because I've got research that I found specifically to suit me. You can always find research to suit what you're trying to say.
That's what people do. What people do. They do. My husband does it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Always justifying why he can do it. Yeah. So but Yeah, it's good.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
as Oscar Wilde used to say, including moderation. I mean, what is moderation?
Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
So no, we've got no comments.
No comments.
I don't even know how to see who is watching.
Nobody by the looks of it.
I've got like three little eyes up there.
I can't see. Nobody said hello to us.
No. I wonder why. It's all good. It's really interesting. It's good to talk about.
It is. It's an important subject.
There's the health aspect, and then there's the mind aspect as well. And the people that I know, like in my family, they have like a problem with it. Like they can't stop. Once they have that glass of wine,
that's it.
They just the whole bottle's gone, and then they're going up the bottle shop and buying another bottle, and that's a completely different issue.
Like
story.
Biscuits.
Yeah, so that's really not good for but anyway.
Okay.
All right, we'll have a lovely Thursday. It's another nice day.
And you too. And we'll see you next week, next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what we're talking about then, but we'll let you know.
Yeah. we'll look at the responses.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.